we will talk about some. So the Rotten Tomato score came out. It was 32 when I last checked. So and I was like, you know what? Let's just see what people are saying about this movie because, you know, sometimes Rotten Tomatoes does a bad job of it does a bad job. I just don't remember where I put it, but does a bad job of like classifying the reviews as because I'm pretty sure the way it works is they classify them themselves as rotten or fresh. And I again like there's some things because again it's like a 50. If you rate it on scales like above 50% is fresh and below 50 is rotten because it's not a actual like you thought like it's 80% doesn't mean 80% of the critics thought it was good or sorry 80%. It's not like oh critics on average gave it a score of 80% or 8 of 10. No. What it means is it means 80% of the critics thought it was above average, right? It's above 50. But if you give it a 6 out of 10 or a 5.5 out of 10, which is 55%, you get a fresh review, right? So 100% Rotten Tomatoes is not necessarily that it was everyone consensus agreed it was 100. It means that everybody who saw it said it was better than 50%, right? Or better than average, above average. So it's a weird deceptive score. Um, if I can find the I should have labeled these, but I didn't. So I am just kind of scrolling. Here it is. So it was the first one I put. So Madam Web does its best not to be another Catwoman. I know the original score says B minus at the bottom. I don't know if, and again, maybe the author was absolutely agreed that this was a fresh review. I mean, when Madam Web does its best not to be another Catwoman, does it like that does not sound like a very positive review. But I digress, kind of. So let's look at some of the other ones because I think again these kind of outline my problems with movie critics by and large professional movie critics. So we've got Rachel Leishman, which who is probably someone active on Twitter. 3 out of 5. So 3 out of 5 is not a bad score for a movie. It's above average. It fits all the criteria. Obviously, B minus would also. Filled with cheesy dialogue. I agree with that. We're used to in comics. Okay, I agree with that too. Madam Web recognizes the origin that it is trying to tell. Okay, you know what? I could go read the full review. I'm not going to do that because I'm lazy. I will give Rotten Tomatoes a pass on this one. And I will give the critic a pass for this one because you know what? You can say you could find. I'm sure you could find some humor in this, and you can find some way to like say, you know what? It's cheesy. That's okay. Let's look at another. Maybe I'm overreacting. Something that I overreact to things. Um, this one I don't even know what that is. Okay, so let's look at this one. We're just gonna move this one away, and we're gonna take a look at a new one. Okay, because maybe I'm just overreacting. Maybe I'm just being dramatic here. Okay. Although it gets its feet a little tangled at the start. Okay, I agree. Not a great start. Very bad editing. I don't think I've talked about that yet. The editing sucked. Especially that first scene, it was very loud and annoying, um, and it was very hard to watch. I think I got like seizures watching it. It was very bad. Although it feels like a little tangled at the start, and it does. Madam Web weaves a strong and cohesive narrative celebrating feminine leadership, rejection of pessimistic fatalism, and the empowerment that comes with embracing responsibility. So again, with all due respect to Hannah Rose of CBR, um, I do actually want to watch the movie that you watched because this seems like a very good movie. The movie I watched was not a strong and cohesive narrative. First of all, um, maybe we have different definitions of strong and cohesive. Um, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Just going through the way they develop the character, I think the fact that all those things which have to happen for it to work, it would make it strong and cohesive. Then whatever. Now let's look at the other part of this, right? Because I think this is something which I didn't talk about for a reason. But she says, assuming she, I don't know, this critic says celebrating feminine leadership. Um, Now I really want to believe this is true, and maybe the sequel would make this more true. There's there's a scene. Okay, so these kids are supposed to be around like whatever 16, 17. I think they're supposed to be teenagers, right? So saying under 18. I think they're all in like high school, so they're younger. There's a scene where they're trying to lap dance on, or like do like they're dancing, and like they're kind of, the director is over sexualizing. It feels like, again, to me, over sexualizing teenage girls. Again, I understand the actors are older, but like still, the concept of what you're doing is wrong, in my opinion. So I don't know if that really stands with the celebrating feminine leadership part of that. But I guess we can agree to disagree on that one. A rejection of pessimistic fatalism is interesting because I'm assuming the fatalism is the fact that the villain, sees these girls in his dream and is trying to kill them before they can kill him. So I guess that's the rejection of pessimistic fatalism. Also for the feminine leadership thing, the villain is very abusive to women generally. Like and also the movie looks very much down on women. Like there's this at the beginning. So in order to get this technology, he needs to kind of find these teenagers. He seduces, sleeps with, and then steals classified information, which this NSA agent just, like, this very classified technology which this NSA agent just keeps in her purse when she's out at the opera, apparently. So yeah, I don't know. And then also he's like, threatening to kill someone who's supposed to be working for him to hack and into this technology. Anyways, I don't think the military protocol is to keep very valuable things, or NSA protocols to keep very valuable things on your person at night when you go to some strange man's house. But anyways, that's so rejection of pessimistic fatalism, sure, whatever. It's the nicer way of saying, I guess they didn't just accept their fate, because that is something which we see often in superhero movies. And the empowerment that comes with embracing responsibilities. Now, the only empowerment that came was like literally getting powers, because she embraced responsibility, because they screwed up or not screwed up, they intentionally changed with great power comes great responsibility to with great, when you take responsibility, you get great power, or something like that. Some way of like commodifying it a little bit to an extent, kind of like what they did in Fan Four Stick with the it's collaborate time, to make it like there being a whole depressing backstory to the catchphrase about how the Thing's brother used to abuse him or whatever, and would say it's collaborating time, and now he's like he uses that because that's not at all unhealthy to like say the thing that your brother said before, or whoever your family member said before they would abuse you when you're about to beat up bad guys, but yeah, I mean, I guess sure, whatever. Empowerment that comes with embrace. You literally get powers, if that's what we call empowerment. Then sure. Again, I just think that these people just did not see the same movie I did. And again, it's not like that these things cannot be, like these verbs and these adjectives and all these other words, these grammars that they use. Right? It's like a rejection of pessimistic fatalism. Okay, thank you for using a thesaurus to say, well, they didn't just accept their fate and die, because that's a little bit less looking like it's a good movie than if you just said, they just rolled over, man, and it was done for them. No, they said, they rejected pessimistic fatalism. Or empowerment that comes with embracing responsibility, as in she literally got powers when she became more responsible, kind of, or strong cohesive narrative, which is really what it means, and then celebrating feminine leadership instead of saying, well, there are women in the movie, which means it must be feminine leadership. Catwoman is feminine leadership, man. Don't even though there's a lot of things. Actually, I would probably, even if I could go back and like kind of like look, I would like her to cite her sources on that one, because I don't actually know if there's any examples of that outside like using it because you like those words. But anyways, let's look at another one here. Dave Lee, a clunky, goofy mess. However, there's an ultimate joy in this ham-fisted adventure. Unintentionally hilarious dialogue, corny villain, cringeworthy moments, lazy Easter eggs, a superb ensemble of cheesy performance led to this ironically enjoyable romp. Okay, now this is my problem with critics. More so than the person who went through a thesaurus to write the review. My problem is people like Dave Lee from Dave Lee Down Under. Do you know why I have a problem with Dave Lee? Because then I haven't done a check on this, and maybe I will. But Dave Lee says this stuff, a clunky, goofy mess. Gives it a 3 out of 5, 60% for people who can't do math. So, if you want to say there's an ultimate joy to this movie, and then if you're somebody who then goes and attacks Marvel movies for being dumb or not be or being, you know, whatever, when they are better made, like, you know, MCU movies being better made and not, you know, and being like significantly above this, and then if you say that any of those movies are worse than this, then I have a problem with the way, not with what you're saying, because fine, whatever, but if then you say, well, but MCU, that's not good because of this exact same stuff, the double standard is unacceptable. Because you can't just, as a critic, or as a professional so-called whatever critic, you can't just say, well, you know, superb ensemble of cheesy performances. That's I like that stuff. And then say, well, the MCU sucks. So you got to pick a lane. And now, granted, I'll look. If you did say that, if you never said anything bad about an MCU movie, then sure. But I have doubts about that one, Mr. Dave Lee, or I don't know. Again, Dave Lee. But yeah, this is one of my many issues with this. Jenna Anderson of comicbook.com says, for better or for worse, and they gave it a 2.5 out of 5, which is, you know, again, we're really getting to the point here where we're kind of like, we're kind of trying to say, okay, well, we're literally at 50%, like, are we going to be okay with this? But anyways, like, is this still really considered a fresh, but, you know, whatever. For better or for worse, Madam Web further illustrates that Sony's Spider-Man universe has potential when not trying to be a modern cinematic universe at all, and instead being a springboard for the most niche genre stories imaginable. So this is another one where I want to just kind of outline a frustration I have, because again, I think this isn't fair to the audience, because there are people, and as much as they may be misguided, will read this and say, Jenna Anderson, you told me this. Okay, I'm gonna go watch this thing. Again, I fully think everyone should go watch this just to make their own minds, because I don't think you should be listening to anybody about movies. But anyways, if you're gonna say that for better or for worse, Madam Web's it illustrates the potential, you cannot grade a movie based on potential. And then again, these misguided critics go and say, let's use the thesaurus here. Let's use some ChatGPT stuff here. It's kind of like they put their own thoughts into ChatGPT and said, make this a nice review, a positive review, and they copied and pasted it. Like, instead of being a springboard for the most niche genre stories imaginable. Like, I don't understand what's niche about this genre story. Like, are we saying, like, I'm still not sure what genre the story falls into. Like, is it a spy thriller? Are we talking, like, what are we doing? Can we define terms a little bit? Like, I understand you want to look like you're highbrow when you're, you know, critically examining a Madam Web movie, but, like, can we be serious? If people are going to read this and actually listen to your damn opinions? Like, Sony's Spider-Man, its potential. Okay, great. I agree it has potential. You know the problem is? This isn't, well, on a scale of 0 to 5, how much potential does the Sony Spider-Man universe have? That was not the question that you were asked. The question you were asked was, what did you think about Madam Web? The movie that you saw with your eyes and heard with your ears, not, well, if you could write a story, how much untapped potential is there? Well, no shit, there's potential. The characters all come from comics, which are actually really good. You're right, there's potential. There's infinite possibilities here. The problem is, we live in the reality where we got one of those possibilities, so you can't just say, well, it's good because of the potential. It's kind of like if I said, well, Caleb Williams, quarterback in the NFL, going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, probably going to Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams is the greatest quarterback to ever play football because of the potential. Therefore, Caleb Williams is the GOAT because he's potential to be the GOAT. There are people, by the way, Baker Mayfield was the same thing, right? People are like, oh, the potential of Baker Mayfield, man, could be legendary, right? Um, Bryce Young, who was just drafted in the NFL. I'm using NFL examples because it's on the top of my head right now. But Bryce Young, oh, number one pick, potential. Well, you can't be the greatest. You can't be said, well, this is the greatest player of all time. They have the potential to be. They have to at least do something, right? And then if you're asked, well, how did Bryce Young play this year? And then you say, well, he was a 5 out of 5. Perfect. Best player in the league. Why? Because he has the potential to be the greatest football player ever. Therefore, this year he was the best. Do you understand what I'm saying? The logic doesn't fit. It's like he did something, he's doing something different. He's being short and not having any protection, and that makes him the best. No, how did he play this year? Badly. Oh, well, in that case, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you can't just. It's so dumb. It's like, what do you think about What do you think about Wonder Woman, the first one? Well, it was bad because the DCEU has no potential whatsoever. Therefore, this movie has to be bad. Like, you understand what they did, how dumb this sounds, right? And I know it's a long video. I don't care. I'm very angry right now, and we're not even close to done yet. We've done all these people. Okay, let's do this one. Jamie Broadnax. Black Girl Nerds. Okay, let's see. 4 out of 5 too, by the way. Now, 4 out of 5 is an 80% if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, it better this 80%. That's well, like at least the other services like, okay, you're gonna B minus for Edward Douglas, kind of 50% or whatever, then you got like a 60%. It's like, okay, well, maybe you're not really. This is an 80%. This is an endorsement of the movie. This might be one of the best movies I've seen this year. So, Jamie writes, Madam Web is suspenseful and action-packed with a substantive origin story that really helps set the stage for this franchise to build on future narratives. It's truly a fun ride. Now again, I haven't looked at Jamie's background and what other movies they have kind of, what other movies they've kind of given, what their kind of reactions to some other, for example, MCU movies have been, because that could be very determining when I'm kind of trying to figure out here what to take away from what looks like an AI generated review. But we're going to go word by word here because I think there's a lot of fascinating words used in this review. Madam Web, okay, we're good with that one, right? By the way, Madam Web probably should have 2 B's because Cassandra Webb's name has 2 B's, but anyways, not the point here. Madam Web, that's okay. That's the title of the movie. You're allowed to write that in a review. Although it's weird, I don't know. Do they not italicize titles or anything on Rotten Tomatoes? Because that feels like they not having the ability to, italicize things. I'm assuming that they didn't just write Madam Web. Like all these people just didn't write Madam Web and put no punctuation around it. I'm assuming, or any kind of symbol to say it's the title of the movie. But anyways, that's a small thing. Is suspenseful and action-packed. Okay, so let's look at this word by word. Suspenseful and action-packed. So I'll tell you, it is action-packed. So we can agree on that one. I'm good with that. 2 words, or I guess 1, 2. Is a good word. Action-packed is 1 word there. So, okay, that's good. Potential. So when we look at the word substantive, this is where my issues start. Because there is no substantive origin here. We talked about this earlier, I guess if this gets split into 2 videos, in my review. Both my reviews, actually. There's no substantiveness to this. They have a character who, is developed as if, like, I don't even know, like, she's developed as if they get 8 hours of character development when they have a 2-hour movie and it takes place over the week. There's no substantive origin. We don't know how she masters her powers. We don't know anything, really, if we're being honest. We don't know the extent of her powers. The only, origin thing we get is how she became blind, which, most normal audience members wouldn't even know was, a thing until after the movie ends. It's not something you knew going in. There's no substantive origin part of this. Now, let's move on. That really helps set the stage for this franchise to build on future narratives. And again, I guess if you set up for a sequel, then that's a checkmark in that category. And then it's truly a fun ride. Okay, fine, whatever. But like you see, this is the issue. If I go back to this critic's kind of past, is there an MCU movie, which is a fun ride, where they say, yeah, this is garbage because they were foreshadowing too much? Because if there is, and again, these are assumptions, but if there isn't, I got a hunch that there might be. Then you can't say that because if you can't change your criteria for why something's great because you want it to be great. Trust me, I want this movie to be great. Got a little more consistency here, please. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So with that being said, thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share your thoughts, follow us on social media, and go check out Madam Web. It's a good movie, and hold these critics to account because they absolutely should have to stand by what they say. No sneaking out of these things. And also check out my other review, which is a little bit better, a little more in depth, on the Movie Madness with College Mo podcast feed. Thank you all.